It's funny, my phone just vibrated both times at the exact same time that I clapped.
Nice.
Yeah. Whoever is messaging me. Oh, it's Cape Cod Marathon stuff. That's
Sweet.
next weekend!
Yay!
I took a video of the finish line while I was running this morning of me crossing the finish line with all the cars around it.
Okay, ready to do the show?
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to Into the Fold, a show where two best friends share their love of Lee Bardugo's Grishaverse chapter by chapter. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Juliana, and this week we are talking about Shadow and Bone chapters 17 and 18, and we're getting very close to the end of the book, Jeff.
Close, but nowhere near the end of all the books.
No.
There is still so much for us to talk about. We're going to be doing this for years.
Years and years and years. People, you can't get rid of us. So sorry.
Well, they could unsubscribe, but we don't want them to do that. We love our listening audience. We're glad they're here.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would just be two weirdos talking on a Zoom call, and the world has plenty of that.
Yeah, I mean, for us personally, it wouldn't be the biggest loss, but definitely for the rest of the world. If you're not listening, I mean, what are you doing with your life? You just...
Well, I would miss it. If we were gone, I would miss it.
Yeah.
Would you miss it
too. I would miss it too, Jeff.
I can't remember a time when I wasn't doing this now. A year ago, I did not have any of the stuff that I have in my home now. I had just done an appearance. I'm good at grammar. Dang it. I did my first appearance on a podcast like 1 year ago, almost to the day.
Really?
Is when we recorded. Yeah. That was my first episode of Alohomora. I'd never done a podcast before, and now we're on episode 11 of our very own show. How crazy is that?
Oh, I remember that actually, because you were kind of nervous about being on there, because that's like your favorite OG podcast.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It is. And now we have this one, which is another one of my favorites.
Well, I would sure hope so, Jeffrey, because, you know, if you don't like what you're doing, then why are you even doing it?
Contractual obligations?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's
we don't have a contract for this, but...
No.
Oh, well.
Oh, well. Okay, so...
Let's talk about some news. Is there news?
There is a little bit of news from the front. Jeff, would you like to lead us into the news? So, our little bit of news that we have this week is about Season 2 of the Netflix show for Shadow and Bone, and this comes from an interview that Ben Barnes did in regards to his new music and his album that came out, and they asked him a few questions about the second season, and he said, I think they're going to sort of shake it up a bit in terms of what happens in the stories a little bit. I'm hoping we go back beginning of the next year and shoot. I'm excited to see where they take it, actually, because I was really proud of the first season. So, I know we had news earlier in the year that they had finished writing the scripts, and that's what the showrunner had said. And we assumed that they were going to start filming right after that, and I guess they just didn't for some reason, whether it be logistics of the cast or the actors or anything like that. But apparently Ben Barnes is saying they're going to start the filming early 2022.
That makes sense. Because especially for a big show like Shadow and Bone, like not just big in terms of popular, but big in terms of the budget, the special effects, like I can't imagine the price tag on what it costs to make a season of that show. But it takes a while. Once you even have everything in place to where you can start filming it, it's going to take a really long time to produce. So if we do get it by the end of 2022, then I will be very grateful. Because let me tell you, I was a little late getting on board the Stranger Things train, but I did.
Ooh, okay.
And now it's been so long since the end of season 3, I can't even remember off the top of my head how long it's been. And I still don't know. I think season 4 is coming. They always said there was only going to be 4 seasons. But if you think about it, it feels like it's been roughly a decade that they've been doing 4 seasons of Stranger Things. I may be slightly off there. I'm not good at math, but I feel like, it feels like it's been a decade of Stranger Things, and there's only 4 seasons to show for that.
I mean, it's literally almost been a decade since we got the last Fantastic Beasts movie, let's be honest, Jeff. So, we are not foreign to this feeling here. We know it well. And
No. It'll be fine. Besides, I don't rush it, because this is a series that people are taking very, very close to heart. And you know how people get about their YA fantasy universes that they're heavily emotionally invested in. They want the adaptation to be excellent, and excellence takes time.
Yeah, especially with the casting decisions that they have to make for the second season. I think that they're definitely taking their time to make sure that they have the correct people for the new characters that we're going to see in that season.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes. And in this interview, Ben Barnes also mentions that the script had not yet been shared with him either. So he also doesn't know the exact storyline of things yet either. So we'll get more news and things as things progress. But as of right now, it stands that they'll start filming in 2022. So listeners, just stay tuned and we'll update you on anything that we know.
Sounds good to me.
Yes. The other point in the news this week is that I guested on a podcast episode of this podcast called Friends in Your Ears, which is a podcast where the host interviews podcasters about their favorite podcasts and also about the podcasts that they host. So if you would like to go listen to that, I was on with this other gentleman named Sergio who does video gaming podcasts, and it was episode 88 of the Friends in Your Ears podcast. So you can go and listen to that on all places where pods are cast if you would like to hear more of my lovely voice. I know you are wanting to hear that.
That was a fun conversation between you and those two people.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Definitely interesting to hear that, like, what this other guy is listening to, and also get possibly the host involved in being a listener to this podcast, which is exciting.
Since you're fond of saying the word podcast over and over, I'm pretty sure you've said it about 50 times in the last 2 minutes. Why don't you tell everybody what we're doing after we're done recording this episode, because we're doing something fun.
Oh, yes, we are doing something fun. So right after we finish recording this episode, Jeff and I are going to head on over and meet up with our friends Danny and Lucero at Sombros y Cuevos. I think that's how it's pronounced, which is the Spanish-speaking Shadow and Bone podcast, and we will be doing a trivia event about the first book, the Shadow and Bone book, and that will be coming out in the next month or so, I would say. We don't have an exact release date for that yet, but we are really excited to be doing one trivia event per book that listeners will be able to listen to, and maybe we'll post the trivia questions for. I'm not sure yet. That's to be worked out. But we're really excited to be doing some trivia with them, and I hope that I win. That's what I would like to say.
We'll see. I think I picked out some decent questions for that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what yours are.
Yeah, I've tried to be a little more obscure with my questions.
You're good about that. You know what we need to do?
What?
Because, people have no reason to know this, but we're planning on getting together for an epic adventure fun vacation next year where we will finally meet person to person, face to face, because we've never been in the same place before. Our friendship is on the internet.
Which does not make it any less valid, but it just makes it harder to see each other in person because, like, logistically speaking, we do live kind of far away from each other.
We do. But we need to find if there's a trivia night going on anywhere near you. Like, we need to go do a trivia night.
I think I know of one, because my friends just opened up a brewery down the street, and I think they're doing trivia every Thursday now. I think that's what they just started actually this week. So we might have a trivia event that we can go to that's like literally a 5-minute walk from my apartment, Jeff. So, wish granted.
Fun.
Yes.
So that's all the news that we have, and now we will move into the voice of the people.
Okay, so friends, Grisha, everyone, we just have a little brief update in the voice of the people. This week we are just updating our Grisha order tally, and what some of you may have noticed because you answered this in Spotify or in Anchor is that Spotify or Anchor actually offers us to put a poll and also a question in the app itself. So if you're listening on Spotify or on Anchor, you can answer our poll, which for now is going to be, what Grisha order are you? And you can answer our question, which is going to be the question of the week. So if you'd like to answer the question or put in your Grisha order via Spotify or Anchor, please do so. It's at the bottom. Just scroll down to the bottom of the episode when you're listening. And so this week we added 2 Ethereal Guy from the poll, and we have 11 total. We added 1 Corporal Guy for 10 total, and we added 1 Material Guy for 5 total. So, listeners, if you'd like us to add you to this list, just either answer the poll that is on Spotify or Anchor, or comment on one of our posts, or just send us a DM on Twitter or Instagram, or an email, and we will add you to our tally. So
now,
far
when people answer those polls, they don't track names, right?
No, it doesn't tell me who the names are. It just tells me the number of people who answered for each question.
Okay, I was just wondering because I know that like when we put those questions out on our social medias, we can at least see the usernames of the people who are answering. But when we put the surveys out, like you were just describing, they're anonymous.
Yeah, these are anonymous, so this is actually a really good option if you prefer to be anonymous, because there's no way we are able to track who answered what. It just tells us a number, and it tells us how many people answered for each question, and that's literally it. So, if you'd like to remain anonymous, then this is the option for you. We won't bother you, because we can't.
Nope. Not our style.
Yep. And so let's get on into our main discussion, which is chapters 17 and 18 of Shadow and Bone. And just a warning, as usual, anything past this point will contain spoilers for chapters 18 and backwards. So if you hadn't read any of those chapters and you don't want to be spoiled, pause, go back and read them, and come back here after you read them. If not, don't worry, we have some summaries ready for you if you prefer to just come along for the ride.
Speaking of coming along for the ride, these 2 chapters have something in common, and that is that this is basically turning into the Mal and Alina show.
Yes, and with
the whole thing has been from Alina's perspective, and it still is. But she's had so many characters to figure out how to interact with, and this whole time, I know that you especially have been like, oh, stop thinking about Mal, I don't like Mal, Mal's a jerk. Well, guess what? Literally, these 2 chapters are the 2 of them. Some other people come up, kind of, but it's just these 2 people.
Oh my God.
Wish
I don't like these chapters.
I have been really looking forward to these chapters.
I have feelings.
I read your notes.
I have so many feelings about these chapters. I just
My
Go
dude,
ahead, Jeff.
I read your notes this morning, and you 5 different ways in one chapter, you wrote 5 different ways you said the same thing, and that is that you hate Mal.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm reading my notes over really quickly right now, and yeah, I did. I found many creative ways to say that I don't like him and I don't approve of the way he's acting. But before we get into that, Jeff, why don't you give us the summary of the chapter so then I can really put Mal through the ringer and just wring the living crud out of him?
You can try.
I will. Don't worry.
But I came with counterpoints, not because I disagree with all of your opinions about Mal, just because I like the conversation.
Yes. Well, it's good. As I said, Jeff, I will never say that I will always give you validity for the points you are making. I may not agree with you, but I will accept the fact that the points you are making are valid. So that's fine with me.
All right, well, here's what happens in Chapter 17. Alina tells Mal about the Darkling's evil plan and everything that she's learned from Baghra. Mal tries to talk Alina out of Baghra's plan because the Darkling is just going to find her anyway, and since he doesn't really know Baghra, he probably doesn't trust her either. Mal guides them through the woods as they search for Morozova's stag and any signs of the Darkling's minions. They stop at a village for supplies and to celebrate Butter Week, which sounds super fun. But while they're in the village, they get accosted by some robbers who threaten to turn them in as deserters, but they manage to fight their way out. Alina has to use her powers to subdue them, so now they've given away their position. Alina and Mal are finally, by the end of the chapter, starting to joke and laugh with each other like they used to, which I know probably just drives you crazy. And then the chapter ends with a snuggle. Aww. They're snuggling. Yay!
Wow.
Who doesn't love a good snuggle? People who don't like to be touched, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely love a good snuggle, but...
That's why you bought a dog.
I bought the most attaching, snuggly dog that even exists on this planet. Like, let's be real here. Myrtle wants to just infuse with my skin.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to just cuddle. She wants to become part of me so we can be touching at all times. So yes, I do love a cuddle.
As do I. So let's get into it. You hate Mal.
Oh, boy,
that
I
much
really
is clear.
Yeah,
You
I
really
don't
do
like
not like him at
No.
all.
These chapters made me very mad.
So let's start with your first point about Mal.
The lack of communication. I think that's the big theme here. It's just the lack of communication. We start off with Alina trying to tell Mal all these things, and she's trying to get him in on the information that she knows, and he is just flatlining her and giving her nothing and just being a and just not acknowledging anything she's saying and not communicating back to her, just kind of exuding that big energy that I don't appreciate and do not approve of, and just being awful. Those are my first thoughts and feelings, Jeff.
Okay, but how do you really feel, though?
Do you really want to know how I feel? Mal.
Well, now I'm kind of afraid to ask.
No, I mean, I would love for him to at least acknowledge that her feelings are valid and talk back to her, because we can see between the body language between the two of them, he is clearly shutting her out. He has things that he wants to say, and you can like feel it in the chapter that he is actively not talking to her and actively trying to think of other things going on and like fully distract himself with the tracking portion, which is very important to be tracking the stag. I get that.
See, that wasn't really my reading of the chapter, though. My reading of the chapter was they are still learning how to talk to each other. They're still coming off of a huge fight. They have barely started to make up yet, so he doesn't know how to communicate with her yet. But if he's ever going to, he has to start somewhere. And plus, she's a better communicator than him just naturally, but she's also... Admittedly, she's been in a very confusing place. She's been in a palace where everybody has been trying to control her. She keeps finding out that people who she thought were her friends have been stabbing her in the back and trying to get stuff out of her. But she has at least had people she could talk to about what she's feeling. Mostly, I'm thinking of Jenya.
Yeah.
And Mal is a guy in the military who's been surrounded by other guys in the military, and they've been on this kind of dangerous mission that not all of them survived. So at what point was he supposed to start opening up about his thoughts and feelings? Nobody wants to hear that. Not in the world that he comes from. So he has to learn how to communicate without anybody explaining to him, this is what you need to do. This is how you can start to do it. Like, they don't have a counselor to guide them through that, and sometimes that's what people need for that to happen.
Yeah, having a therapist here to give them couples therapy, I think, would be extremely helpful, for sure.
They would need individual therapy before they do couples therapy, because you gotta do work on yourself.
Yeah. I don't like Mal. I don't like him just not telling her anything. I understand that he's been through a lot, and that's the culture of the army, is just to suck it up and keep going forward. But at a certain point, you just gotta talk. And from this chapter, it seems like they're not really even talking that much. It's more Alina just talking to him, and him just be like, yeah, and like kind of ignoring her a little bit.
Yeah, because he's emotionally stunted. He still has to accept that he has somebody in front of him now that genuinely cares about him, that wants to hear what he has to say. Based on the explosive argument they had before they got to this point, he probably is still wondering whether she wants to hear him out or not. Or it's possible he might think that he needs to listen more to understand her point of view, so that's why he's not talking as much. I do that sometimes. If I'm not talking a lot when I'm having a conversation with somebody, if I'm not talking a lot, it's not necessarily because I don't have any thoughts about what they're telling me. It's because I'm trying to actively listen to make sure that they are being heard. They might not know they're being heard if I don't say things back to them to let them know that. That might be what he's doing. Because it's more so in the next chapter than this one, but he's kind of starting to try to do that.
He's giving it a stab once in a while. I don't know how much of it is him trying to understand everything. I think he's listening, he's taking things in. A lot of the stuff that he says back to her, you can tell that he's listening, but I think his brain is also very much so still on a separate planet. And one of the things that the energies that he's really putting out is the, like, I'm in the lead, just follow me energy. And I don't like that. I understand, I'm reading your point, Jeff, that they don't really have a lot of options, but just the way that he's really presenting it as, you follow me or else.
That's what he's used to doing, though. He's the one in charge. He's the best tracker in his unit, and he knows that. They've been tasked with finding this stag, and nobody is capable of pulling that off except him. So he's the man with the plan. That's what he's accepted. And besides, the only plan that the two of them have right now is to find the stag. So if he doesn't take the lead, then what's Alina going to do?
I don't know. She'll just, I don't know. I guess I just don't like the way he's communicating things to her. Again, lack of communication. Juliana doesn't like the communication style between Mal and Alina, especially how Mal is communicating his feelings, which is through, like, grunts and, come on, let's go. You know.
Fair enough. But as far as him being in charge, I think, at least my reading of this chapter and the one that follows, is Alina doesn't really want to make decisions about this. Like, she wants to be in control of her own life for sure, but people keep guiding her down these paths that make her life more complicated, and she probably wants to just let Mal take the lead so that she doesn't have to use the critical thinking part of her brain.
Yeah. That's also a valid point, too. She has been dragged in a lot of different directions. And we can kind of see it in this chapter, too, where she is a little bit skeptical of Mal and where they're going and how he is just kind of, and I would be too, changing directions sometimes because, as we know, he is the best tracker out there. And he's just kind of listening to the wind or something to figure out where the stag is. But that is not necessarily the most by the book way to go about finding the stag or something like that. So I can see where she would still be questioning his choices if one day he's like, let's go up north, and then the next day he's like, okay, we're going south, and she'd be like, what? Come again? So I see where she would have some skepticism as to making decisions and following him as well, and why he would need to be a little bit more firm with taking the lead. I would like him to communicate this differently to her because he is really just kind of being an about it, and I don't like it.
That is abundantly clear.
Yeah.
You know what else is abundantly clear?
What?
Butter Week sounds super fun.
I will say that it's not like the best holiday name in my head, but like they probably could have come up with something. I mean, Butter Week just sounds kind of... It has the word
butter in it. Butter is a fun word to say.
Butter. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But it does sound like fun. I do agree with you on that, Jeff, that it does really sound like fun. And it's nice to actually see some positive memories from Alina during this time in the book. She goes into this she realizes that it's Butter Week, and she's like genuinely happy, which is nice.
Well, sure, it's a joyous festival. Who doesn't love a joyous festival? And these poor orphans who probably are kind of malnourished. Malnourished. Because Mal's in the story. Anyway, who wouldn't want to go to a festival where people are throwing delicious food at you?
I just imagine a really chubby, the generic looking king or like lord guy in a cartoon who's just kind of like chubby, and he's obviously white, and he is middle-aged, and I just imagine him like chucking rolls at kids who are just on the side of the road, like really scrawny little orphan kids. I'm imagining this as a cartoon, and they're just like getting hit in the head with rolls and be like boink, 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 and just like falling over because they're getting rolls chucked at them. That's the comedic version.
You have to be careful how you bake those rolls, because if you bake them too hard, they're like those fighting muffins from the Charlie's Angels movie.
Oh, I genuinely, Jeff, probably a surprise, I have not seen Charlie's Angels, actually.
It's literally the only thing, I've been saying literally a lot today, I don't know why, but it is literally the only thing from the Charlie's Angels movie that they came out with a few years ago that I actually remember is one of them bakes muffins, and the muffins are so stale that they throw one at the door and it gets stuck in the door.
Wow, that is definitely a lethal muffin, a lethal muffin, and I'm really glad that none of them ate them, because it almost sounds like if you ate one of those, like a shard of the outside of the muffin would rip through your intestines like a knife, potentially.
Probably. Hopefully that's not happening with any of the food that they're chucking at innocent bystanders during Butter Week.
You never know. You never know, Jeff, what's going to happen during Butter Week.
It's called Butter Week. The name just, to me, that name oozes anything can happen energy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, just when things are starting to get fun again, they encounter some trouble.
Yeah. I remember when I first read this chapter not too long ago, I definitely thought that they were going to capture Alina and Mal, and that they were going to end up taking them away at the end of this chapter, which isn't actually how it ends, which is interesting. I understand that Alina has her powers, which she did use in the actual written out version of this chapter, not the Juliana headcanon version, but I was thinking, because up until this point, they've been either very, very, very scant with using her powers or not using them at all, because they didn't want to risk anything at all, any chance of her being noticed. So
it was kind of instinctive, though. Like, it just, her survival instincts kicked in, and it was the only thing she could think of. And I didn't think that they were going to get kidnapped by these guys, because if the Darkling and all his minions are out there looking for Alina and Mal, then they're going to be the ones, if anybody, that is going to kidnap these two and bring them back. They're not going to get caught by some robbers who don't even have names. I mean, she calls one of them Longface. Yeah. Which makes him sound like a pirate.
Arg. Me mateys. Me name Longface. Me come to rob you. Yo. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you too.
That's what he sounds like.
That's exactly what he sounds like.
Longface the pirate.
Yo. I definitely. So I guess my line of thought with this scene was, these people must be, when they first attacked Alina and Mal, I was thinking, oh, they must be associated with the Darkling, and then they weren't, and then I was like, oh, are they actually going to get captured? And then they weren't.
No, they're just jerky guys, like the guy who tried to molest Alina in the chapters from our last episode. They just, every time they encounter strange men in public, the strange men are terrible. They are drunk, and they're trying to molest you, and they are trying to rob you, and they're threatening to turn you in as a deserter. It's terrible.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a good place for a female to be alone walking around. So,
no.
props to some of the characters that we're going to meet later in some of the later books for being such independent ladies. But I think for now, it's probably a good thing. And I might regret saying this later, that Mal is with Alina. And that he's there to at least present as some kind of protection to her. I feel like in this scenario, she is the one who actually saves them. But from an outsider's perspective looking in, if she's standing next to this big hunky dude, then they're not going to mess with her.
I think what they're both starting to appreciate, though, is that neither of them can do it alone.
Yeah.
They are protecting each other.
And maybe, while they're protecting each other, they should learn how to speak to each other, so that way they can communicate properly as a team. Just a novel thought, just an idea, just throwing that one out into the ether.
Hey, they're hiking around in the woods for days and days with nothing to do but look for this stag. There's gonna be plenty of time to talk.
It doesn't seem like they're actually doing that much talking, though. It seems like Alina might be the one. I feel as though this is if, like, you and I went hiking, Jeff. You would be standing there the majority of the time just listening to me, and I would not shut up the entire time.
I think I hear a babbling brook. Oh, no, just babbling. Because Juliana is here.
What is she talking about now? Socks? Yogurt? Who knows? It could be anything.
Probably
Literally.
Running.
Yeah, that's usually where it starts, but then it could, as you know, Jeff, from being my friend, it can go off in literally any direction without notice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. So
you were right to point out that the arm thing at the end, where they're kind of sleeping back to back, and then he just kind of rolls over, and his arm drapes over her, and she's like, "Oh." It is tropey. It's tropey, the thing. But somebody pointed out to me recently that a lot of times, especially in the real world and in fictional universes like this, you need to have some things that happen as expected or that are typical, because life is often very unpredictable. So these little moments where they do classic things like the arm thing, that is one of those things that feels familiar and comfortable.
Yeah, it's something that grounds it back into reality, because we've had all this craziness happen, and then at the end we anchor it back down with a nice little unconscious flap of the arm around Alina.
It's
as
cute.
A hug. Yeah, it's cute, but yeah, like you said, and like I mentioned, it's definitely a trope, but hey, that's fine. We're here for it. And even if it's just in his sleep, at least Mal is showing an appropriate level of emotional and, emotional, what is the word that I'm looking for? Appropriate form of emotion and affection. That's the word. Good one, Jeff. Appropriate amount of affection towards Alina. I would say a hug is very appropriate at the end of this chapter.
So that gets us to the end of chapter 17. It ends with a snuggle. Love that. Wish every chapter ended with a snuggle, but not really. That would be too predictable. Yeah,
that would just be way too predictable for maybe even the next chapter, Jeff.
Speaking of the next chapter, what happens in it?
So, Alina and Mal get up from their lovely hug and continue to hunt the stag and reminisce about their childhood and tee-hee-hee together. Alina wishes that she could stay with Mal just like this forever, but she knows that she can't have that life anymore because of what's going on and what has happened. Right before Mal is about to fall asleep one night, she wakes him up and makes him promise that if she is going to be captured by the Darkling, that he will kill her instead. He very reluctantly agrees, which is valid. And we also learn that Mal's two buddies died while on the hunt for the stag. We didn't really like them anyway, but Alina pretends to be sad for Mal. Alina finally admits to herself that Mal is different than he used to be, and that they aren't kids anymore, and then they share a nice hand hug.
Now, did you make up hand hug, or is that actually in the book? That's in the book.
Oh, no, it's not. Well, they share a very nice hand holding, but I think it's better that we call it a hand hug.
Okay, a hand hug.
Because, consistency, Jeff. We had an arm hug in the first chapter that we did, And now we have a hand hug in the second chapter that we're doing this week. Hugs all around.
You know, there's something about this chapter that always makes me laugh, and that is when Mal is actually learning from Alina how the Grisha see the king of Ravka, because he's actually surprised to find out they don't like him.
Yeah, I definitely think that Mal has kind of the same outlook on the Grisha that Alina did before she became a Grisha, where the Grisha are servants of the king, essentially. And they like him, and they actually want to be in close proximity to him while they're at the little palace, when that is literally the exact opposite, and the first and second army are more similar in their views than they really think that they are. It's just that no one's talking. Wow.
Yeah, nobody likes the king. Nobody.
Yeah.
Literally nobody. The king doesn't like himself, probably.
I doubt
if I were the
likes
king,
himself.
I would hate myself a lot.
Yeah,
me too. If the king of Ravka was the person that I am, I would hate myself, and everybody else would hate me too.
Well, I mean, clearly the queen of Ravka hates herself too, because she goes to extreme measures to alter her appearance and present herself as being way more haughty and just edited than any normal person really should be. So yeah, no one likes the king. So
she's like the evil mom from Tangled.
Yeah, she kind of is, yeah. In a way. Interesting. But I would like to say that I feel like it was irresponsible for them to wait this long, Alina included, to talk about all these things, and I understand where she's coming from with the, 2 a.m. thoughts kind of thing, and pillow talk situation that we have going on here, but to wake Mal up right before he falls asleep to tell him something this big, maybe not the best plan of attack. I can see that the mood just moved her to do so, and as someone who is kind of sporadic in a lot of the things that they do because of ADHD, I get it, but maybe not the best plan of attack for her, unless she was thinking, hey, I'm gonna announce this to him and tell him about this while he's half asleep, so that way he has to agree to killing me if the Darkling goes to take me away. I don't think that was her line of thinking, but that's the only out I can really give her here.
I think her line of thinking, we've seen a lot of, we see what she's thinking all the time because the books are from her perspective, but we don't get every inner dialogue that she has with herself. Otherwise, the book would be far too long. She's probably, I think, been thinking this for some time, and things with her and Mal are just starting to get better. Mm-hmm. So this is just going to really put a dent in that. Hey, by the way, I know we had a big fight. We're starting to get over it, and we clearly still love each other. But if the Darkling captures me, I want you to murder me so that he can't use me for evil. That's the kind of thing you have to work up a lot of nerve to say to somebody, and it might not be the best time to say it, but she probably thought, if I don't say it to him now, I'm never going to.
Yeah. And
so that was the moment where she finally worked up the courage to tell him something that was just going to upset him. Yeah,
she reached the point of, I feel like, word vomit in her head, where she had probably been marinating on this thought for days and days and days and days while they've been walking and waiting for the perfect opportunity to say it, and then all of a sudden something just clicked in her head and she was like, I have to say it! He must know!
To be honest, I'm a little surprised she even asked him, because she and Mal know each other better than anybody is ever going to know either of them, so she should know that Mal, even though he would do anything for Alina, he doesn't have it in him to kill her.
Yeah.
He would never do that.
No, and I think that's why she has to tell him this and make it known to him that, hey, there's really only, as far as they know right now in this point in the books, 2 options for this situation to play out in. Either the Darkling will turn me into his zombie, or you will murder me, or we will get the well, I guess 3 situations. I turn into Darkling Zombie, you murder me, or we get the stag first, and I turn into the almighty Sun Saint. So, all kind of very different endpoints that we're getting to. I feel like a lot of the times when you have a pick your own destiny situation, the choices kind of lead to similar outcomes, whereas these all seem to have very distinctly different outcomes for each scenario or choice that I guess can be made here.
And then that last point that you made, though, where the option 3 is they get the stag, she gets the amplifier, and then she uses her increased power to get them away. But it's, talk about bad timing. She's just now starting to wonder, what if this amplifier is a bad idea? What if it changes me in a way that I can't handle? I'm sorry. Where was this line of thinking when the Darkling said, I'm gonna get you that stag, girl? And she was like, yay, amplifier. That's gonna be super helpful. And she's in a library full of books on Grisha theory. Did it not occur to her to like interview some of these other Grisha who have amplifiers and say, hey, by the way, when you get this thing and it increases your power level to over 9,000, does that
have side effects?
Like, turn you into a complete and total psycho?
Yeah. I feel like I can identify with her on this, with getting things that I've wanted for a while and then just not even thinking about, hey, there could be repercussions of that. Not really. Just not having it register in my head when I'm actually asking for the thing. So it's good that she's thinking about it, but it's kind of, like you said, too late down the line to really be second guessing herself, because there really are only 3 options here, and she is going to have to go into whichever option she chooses wholeheartedly. Yeah. And if she's just kind of half-assing having the amplifier, yeah.
How do you half-ass having an amplifier?
You just wear it and you don't use it.
I don't think amplifiers work that way.
You just wear a really nice
I don't think like
collar.
You can tap or untap the amplifier like mana in a game of Magic the Gathering. I think once it becomes a part of you, it becomes connected to your unique power, and it just, your power is what it is as long as you have it on. Also, the way they're talking about the stag's antlers, it's pretty clear that once this thing goes on, it's not coming off. So that makes me wonder about other Grisha's amplifiers. It's pretty clear none of them would choose to take them off because they want to be more powerful, but are amplifiers removable? Lee does something in this chapter that I really appreciate, and it shows how great of a writer she is, where there's a moment where Alina says that Mal's face is so close to her she can feel his breath. Hopefully he had a mint. Hate when I can feel people's breath and it's bad. Actually, in general, I don't care for people's breath being close to me. Like, sometimes you just can't avoid it. But she creates this moment where they could kiss, but they don't.
Yeah.
And it's awesome that she did that, because now, when they finally do, it's going to be that much more special. Because we've had that tension of, oh, they're going to kiss you guys, and then they don't.
Well, this is something that we heard Lee speak about in the interview, and we've read about her doing in her books specifically, is she really makes you work for the relationships in her book. They are not just tropes. Yes, there are a few tropes like we mentioned in the last chapter, and these first 3 books that she has are definitely much more trope-ridden than the other books that follow, but she really makes you work for the relationships that you see in these books. And that's kind of, I think, why you're able to see that the Darkling relationship is Saudi pretty quickly as well as you keep reading, because that just all happens so fast. Whereas in your average YA lit book, the Darkling's relationship with Alina, where they're kissing after about 20 seconds of knowing each other, is kind of on par for the actual relationship that you're looking at in a lot of YA books.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Yeah, nothing. Absolutely
20
nothing.
seconds after knowing each other. What?
Or maybe I'm thinking of Disney movies, who knows.
Or maybe time is difficult for you, because it was a lot more than 20 seconds between when they first met and when they kissed.
Okay, like a day or two, whatever.
A day or two? Okay, now you're doing this on purpose.
Yeah, whatever. But Lee makes us work for the relationships that are actually legitimate within her books. That's the point I was going for.
Fair. It's alright. As has been established, you hate Mal. You are on record of saying that a lot.
Yes.
So, doesn't it just burn you up how much personal growth they cram into the end of this chapter, where he's admitting how much he cared when she left, and admitting that the things he has done up to this point, these moves, as you call them, have not been wise, and that he should have handled things differently, and that now he's trying to do what he's trying to do because he feels like he has to make up for all those things that he did? Doesn't that just drive you crazy?
Yes, it does. It's a lot of retconning that he's doing in real time, and I don't
it's
like it.
It's a lot of what?
Retconning.
What is that?
Reverse. I'm pretty sure it's when you go back and you change the canon.
How is it changing the canon?
No, he's going back and like editing the past. He's like trying to correct what he did in the past, essentially, with what he's saying now.
How?
He's trying to make up to Alina, explain things and be like, hey, well, I was kind of not in a good headspace when I did that. Like, I care about you a lot, but he's never really made these feelings known before, you know, kind of apologizing for things that he's done and giving explanations as to why they happened and trying to almost make it like he wasn't putting out those negative feelings and emotions towards her in the moment and was just so stuck inside his own head that he was just being a wad to everyone that walked by him. And it's not his fault!
So, in your opinion, he's trying to rewrite history to make himself look less to blame.
Yes.
That's exactly what you're getting at?
Mm-hmm.
Can I offer you a hot take?
No. Okay, fine.
I'm gonna offer you a hot take. Regardless, it's just polite to ask.
Go for it, Jeff.
You're looking harder for reasons to continue disliking him than you are for reasons to accept that maybe he's not all bad.
That definitely could be it. Jeff. I think I'm definitely approaching this too as someone who is a female identifying person who has been talked down to a lot by male identifying people. And just the way that he speaks to Alina, I'm not a fan of it.
See, there you go. You have a perfectly good reason.
Yeah, I think
I get it.
I think I identify that energy that he's putting out with people who I've not had good relationships with in the past, and is kind of reminding me of that in a way, and making me feel some kind of way inside when I read his communication things that he says, does, whatever. I'm not going to even call it communication half the time with Alina, and it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth, I would say. So yes, there definitely is some personal vendetta happening here, but he's not good at communicating, and I will die on that hill.
See, I feel like I just understood something about you, is that this is reminding you of unpleasant experiences that you had, so you're viewing Mal in a way that I'm not, because you experienced that and I haven't.
Yeah,
so
that's
if
true.
if I'd literally been in your shoes and I had met several horrible men who treated me the way those men treated you, then I would probably have the same opinion of Mal that you do.
Yeah, I think it's just my personal experience. You're right, my personal experience coming into play as we read through the books, which is something that if you're reading the books by yourself, something that you comprehend as internally as you go, or if you're someone like you and I, Jeff, who are talking about the books as we go, we both each bring our own personal experience to the table as we speak about the books, and that's what makes this podcast interesting too. It's not just us regurgitating the information that's in the books themselves, it's us bringing our personal experiences and thoughts and feelings into the book that we're reading and then regurgitating that instead.
And we do weird voices. Weird voices make the show fun.
Oh, yes. Always a weird voice. I love a weird voice.
See, the way I approach Mal, a character that I initially, I very much did not like him the first time I read this book, but I like having characters like Mal in the books that I'm reading because it offers me an opportunity to try to be open-minded when it's hard to do. Like, I look at a character like Mal and I think to myself, I don't really care for him and I don't care for what he's doing. Why is that? And why is he doing what he's doing that I might be missing? Like, try to look at it from his point of view is what I'm trying to do with Mal. And what I see is somebody who has never been asked what he thinks. He comes from a military background. He had no family. He didn't have anybody who really cared about him except for Alina, and then she was gone, and the next time he sees her, she seems to enjoy her new life that has nothing to do with him better than she enjoyed the time that they spent together. And when he confronts her about this guy who may not be so wonderful, she defends him.
Yeah.
Instead of defending Mal. Like, he wanted somebody to care about him so much, but nobody did except for Alina. At least, and then he got hot when he got older and women started to notice him, and you notice how he clings to that?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the only kind of validation he gets. Nobody cares what's on his mind. Nobody cares about his feelings, but they wouldn't mind sleeping with him. So he goes for that.
That's true.
And now he's on this hike with Alina. They're looking for a stag, and it's the first time that the two of them have been truly alone together in all these years since they were children. They haven't probably been properly alone like this for an extended period of time ever. Even when they were at the orphanage, they were constantly surrounded by other people.
Yeah, that's true.
But here, it's just them and the awful people they keep running into at the Butter Festival or whatever it was.
Yeah. I feel like also this is a classic case of you won't miss it until it's gone. He doesn't realize how much he cares about Alina until she's not there anymore.
Yeah. And who can't relate to that? We've all been there.
Yeah. I get that. I get it. I mean, yes, I don't like Mal, but all valid points, Jeff. All very valid points.
And now we're going to play our fun segment.
Yes. Okay, so, Jeff.
All right, so how are we going to do this fun segment today? Because you didn't just send me, like, a doc. You sent me a link to a timer?
Yeah, so we're going to have
to
find...
What are we doing?
So, we are going to play Heads Up. So...
fun.
Yeah, and I'm sure you know how to play Heads Up, Jeff. But for any of our listeners listening, we have created some PowerPoints that we're going to hold on our phones in front of our heads that other people have filled with words related to the Grishaverse. I will say this may contain spoilers because Jeff and I don't know what these words are. I had our friend Marjolaine fill out my slides. He had his wife Ashley fill out his slides. So neither of us know what's on either one of the other person's slides. It's all a mystery.
Okay, say go. All right, when the timer's ready, say go.
Okay, go.
Okay, he was the first one to die in the Shadowfold.
Alexei.
Right. All right, this is the capital of Ravka.
Azalta.
Correct.
Yes.
Another name for the Darkling.
General Kerrigan?
No.
Alexander.
No.
The Black Harridan.
Okay. Correct.
Yes.
Okay, this was the breakout star of the Netflix series.
Jessie May Lee.
No. Think animal.
Oh, Milo.
Correct.
Milo the goat.
Okay, what are Alina and Mal hunting for?
The stag. Morozova stag.
Correct. What's the name of the book that the apparat gives to Alina?
The Lives of Saints.
Yes.
Is that all of them?
No.
Oh, okay.
Is the timer still going?
I think I'm at, I put in a 1 hour timer. Wait, it says a 60
Oh, dude, are you serious?
I gave myself a minute, almost 2 minutes. That was 2 minutes. Okay, I can give you 2 minutes, though. If you want 2 minutes, Jeff. Sorry, I thought it was counting down and I wasn't really looking at it.
That was
2 minutes.
Wow.
It was almost exactly 2 minutes.
Okay. So you got all of the ones that... So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you did get 6, but we went well past 60 seconds.
Yeah, we did 2. Oh, wait, no. Oh, no, I'm only at a minute. Wow, I'm very sorry, Jeff. I apologize. A minute and 10 seconds. I'm sorry. It says 58:50 out of 60 minutes on my thing. So a minute and 10 seconds. We went over by 10 seconds.
Okay, then we're just going to have to go ahead and count 6.
Okay.
All right, your score was 6. So
okay.
I'll open up a timer on my end, and I'll let you know when it starts. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, go.
This is the place where the whole book series mostly takes place.
Ravka.
Yeah. This is what all the orders are.
Grisha?
Yes. This is the common people.
Otskazatsia.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Is it the priests, maybe? Oh no, these are the guards, sorry.
Oprichniki.
Wow. Yes, the guards, yeah. This is the place where it's the opposite of, it's like the other major place except for the Fjorda within the first couple of books. And Ravka. It's not Ravka, it's not Fjorda, it's
the Shuhan?
Yes. Oh gosh, how am I even gonna do this one? It's a place. It is, I feel like it has to do with the Zemini.
Novosibirsk?
Yes. This is something that...
Time.
Some of that was on me, Jeff.
Okay, so how did you not catch... I mean, could you not... The YouTube timer that you sent me, like, it started going off when I reached the end. Did you not hear that?
No, I hit back. What must have happened, because I had the YouTube timer pulled up on my computer, and it must have played itself through, and then it brought me to a 60-minute timer, and I thought it said 60-second timer, and I just hit start and, like, wasn't paying attention. And I'm sure if I hit back, yep, there's a 1-minute timer, yeah. It went to the next
so how many did I get?
You, my friend, got 7. 7 out of 10. You did better than I did, Jeff.
How did I get 7?
I don't know.
Are you
7.
Sure?
Oh, sorry,
I got
6.
7.
I'm sorry, 6, because the first slide counts as 1. So you got 6, Jeff. Does that mean we tied?
Okay, Ravka, Grisha, Oprichniki, Shuhan, Novosibirsk. No, I only got 5. I got Ravka, Grisha, Oprichniki, Shuhan, and Novosibirsk.
Oh, you didn't
That's
get
5.
Jurda.
I got 5. You got, I think it was 6.
Yeah. But
we also went over by 10 seconds, so...
We can call it a tie.
Yeah, we'll call it a tie.
Yeah. That didn't go as well as I'd hoped, Jeff, but you know, it was worth
okay.
it. It was worth a shot.
Yeah, we can do it again, and now we know how it will work.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. Okay, awesome. And Jeff, would you like to tell us about the question of the week?
So last week our question was, when Mal returned from getting supplies from Petrozoy, what was he wearing? And though we didn't get any answers, the answer was an ugly brown coat and a brown squirrel hat. Fashion icon.
That's
Mal.
Icon.
He's making a statement. The statement is he doesn't understand colors.
Brown, 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 brown.
Or possibly just practicality. Maybe he just bought the cheapest, warmest clothes that he could get. I think he even says that, doesn't he? Doesn't he say, like, she criticizes what he, like she jokes about what he's wearing, Alina does, and he says, hey, I bought clothes that I could get, okay? Mm-hmm. Like, back off me. Sorry, there was no J. Crew outlet.
What? Who does Mal think he is? Just being so unstylish and just not shopping the big brand names. Who does he think he is?
He's a person who is practical before he is stoilish.
Stoilish. Ooh. So, Jeff, do you have a question for us for next week?
Hey listeners, Jeff the editor here. Unfortunately, at this point in the episode, Juliana started having some technical difficulties and had to reboot, but she was able to hop back on. So from this point forward, you may experience a slight difference in her audio quality since we had to use the recorded Zoom call for the rest of the episode. So we thank you for understanding and enjoy the rest of the show. Well, since we spent so much time talking about the hunt for Morozova's stag, I want to know what people would do if they were in Mal and Alina's position. So our question for next week is, if you were Alina or Mal, would you kill the stag or would you choose to let it go?
A very moral question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, instead of a trivia, I want to know what people would do in that position, because I know that some people might have ethical dilemmas about killing the stag. Or maybe they think it's a perspective thing. Maybe they think, look, it's going to get hunted anyway. So better you than somebody else having it.
Well, we would love to hear from our listeners. And listeners, if you would like to answer that question, go ahead and send us a DM on Instagram or Twitter, or send us an email at intothefoldpod@gmail.com. And that wraps up this episode very nicely. Thank you, Jeff, for all your lovely commentary and everything this week. Snaps all around for you, my friend.
You know what? You too.
Oh, well, thank you.
This was a good talk.
Yeah, it's been fun. So, listeners, next time we will be covering chapters 19 and 20 of Shadow and Bone. So, if you would like to read those chapters ahead of time, please do so. Again, we record summaries of the chapters in these episodes too. So, if you don't want to read the chapters, then that's fine with us too. But if you'd like to get in contact with us here at the show, you can listen to us on all places where pods are cast. And we are also on YouTube at Into the Fold Podcast.
And we love to keep up with our listeners on our social medias, where we post things about the episodes and we post fun things that we come across that are Grishaverse related. So if you would like to be one of our followers that we have fun with, we are on Twitter and Instagram at Into the Fold Pod.
And you can send us an email at intothefoldpod@gmail.com.
And if you would like to do something to help us out, if you would like to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, we would love to see that. And if you leave us something good, then we can read it on the show and share it with everyone else.
Yes. And also just a quick note, we do have an Etsy shop where we sell merchandise. I am currently in the process of getting that back up. Because there was a technical difficulty with that. So if you have been looking for the Etsy shop, which I don't really think there really was anyone who was, but if you were, that's what's going on. So if you would like to buy some stickers or pins or a custom made kefta, that will all be back online very soon. And our last little tidbit is we would like to ask people to tell their friends about the show, because that's the best way that podcasts are spread, is by word of mouth. So thank you to everyone who's done that so far. And Jeff, until next time,
see you in the fold.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Okay. One, two,
three. Sorry, let's start that over.
Okay.
I don't think we said who was going to clap. I just...
No, we didn't.
Okay.
No, we can go ahead.
Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3. Shadow
no, that's
and
not
Bone
what I wanted.
What? What do you mean that's not what you wanted?
News.
Dude, please don't make me
That's what I wanted.
Please don't make me explain why I don't have the energy to do that today. They stop at a village for I'm just going to start the whole thing over.
Okay.
I've been working on my Casey Kasem. I just got a text message from my brother. It says, Dear Casey, Megan and I finally got a dog. She's a golden retriever, and we're naming her Bailey Ray. I know that probably makes us sound like we live in Oklahoma. But that's all right, because people in Oklahoma need dogs too.
Thank
Alex, I hope you enjoy your new dog.